Should the Jaguars make a major trade in this upcoming NFL draft? Let's talk about it. Now, before we get into this video, quick word from this video's sponsor, BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
So guys, BetUS is running a pretty sweet promo right now. Look, the first 5 people who create an account and DM me on Twitter your account details, BetUS is going to give you a free $25 in free play. So if you guys are watching March Madness right now, or you guys want to put a little bit of money on the NBA playoffs coming up, and even look, the MLB season starts this week, and you guys can even put a little bit of money on NFL futures. Look, it's $25 risk-free play on completely free money for you guys if you guys set up an account and DM me on Twitter. No money down. Just go ahead and do that, and you guys will have some free money to play with. So huge shout out to BetUS for doing this whole thing. And with all that said, let's get into this video. Now, coming away from free agency, it feels like a lot of good things went the Jaguars' way in every different position, really, except for wide receiver. I think that when we were scoping out free agency, and especially Trent Baalke, he envisioned us being able to sign Gabe Davis to the 3-year, $39 million deal that he got, and then being able to retain Calvin Ridley as well. But Calvin Ridley's market rate was, quite frankly, way too high for the Jaguars, and honestly, probably not worth it for a guy like Calvin Ridley getting $23 million a year. So the Jaguars right now on the roster are rolling forward with Gabe Davis, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk, which, look, in a vacuum, I've heard some people kind of comment on my videos saying, look, the wide receiver position is good enough. We've seen what Zay Jones can do when healthy. You know, Christian Kirk is a good slot, and Gabe Davis has all this different potential. But when you kind of compare the Jaguars wide receiver position to other teams, I mean, look at the Dolphins. They have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Look at the Eagles. They have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Look at the, what the Bengals have been rolling with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So we're definitely not anywhere near that stratosphere, it feels like, in wide receivers. And I know a lot of people bring up the argument, well, the Chiefs did it without any wide receivers, but they're definitely the anomaly. Okay, we saw all year how much the Chiefs wide receiver group was kind of holding them back, and they were able to win in spite of having a bad wide receiving core, and they won because they have the best quarterback in football at Patrick Mahomes. So with this one, we look forward and we say, look, how can we improve the wide receiver position? And when you look at the Calvin Ridley situation, I'll be honest, I almost feel like it's a blessing in disguise, because if the Jaguars re-sign Calvin Ridley to a big 3 or 4 year deal, then you probably think that the core of the wide receiver group is in place. But I also think that if you sign Calvin Ridley, you're almost kind of settling. When you look at Calvin Ridley from last year, I know a lot of people will throw in the whole injury stuff and how he just came, maybe not injury, but the fact that he came back from not playing football in a long time. I think a lot of people will say, okay, he's going to be a lot better. But, it feels like there's a lot of receivers better than Calvin Ridley out there in the NFL. And let's be real, Calvin Ridley really let us down on a lot of key moments, just dropping some, especially in the first half of the year, just dropping some complete dimes by Trevor Lawrence, putting in places where, like, it was the most optimal place to catch it, and he would drop it. So I think that Calvin Ridley was a little bit disappointing last year, and I think re-signing Calvin Ridley is almost kind of settling that, okay, this guy was there and he was convenient. He's going to come back as wide receiver 1. But now the Jaguars will look onward. All the wide receivers have been taken. There's still feels like the Jaguars GM and the front office knows they can get better at wide receiver, which is one reason why they were kind of in the mix to be able to trade for Brandon Ayuk before the price was too high, and a reason why they were willing to give Calvin Ridley almost $18 million a year, because they know how much of a need that position is. But now the only way to improve, if you're not going to go crazy, is in the NFL draft. And look, there are 3 tiers of wide receivers that will get drafted in the first round in this upcoming draft. There's Marvin Harrison Jr., who will most likely be the first non-quarterback on the board. He's most likely going number 4 overall to the Arizona Cardinals. You look at the Bears going to draft a Caleb Williams at number 1. Number 2 and 3, you have the Patriots and Commanders drafting there. So one of those teams is going to end up with Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and the Patriots at number 3 are going to end up with whoever the Commanders don't draft. And then at number 4, you have the Cardinals, who are not kind of in the quarterback mix. They most likely believe in Kyler Murray. I'd be very shocked if a quarterback goes there. So they will most likely get Marvin Harrison Jr. And then there's tier 2. There's Malik Nabers from LSU, and there is Rome Odunze from Washington. And that's kind of the consensus there. Those are the next 2 off the board, and they're usually going in the top 10 of all these different mock drafts. Sometimes those 2 players even going in the top 6. Okay? And then you have tier 3, you have the Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, both from Texas, and you have Brian Thomas Jr., another player from LSU. So, I don't see the Jaguars being able to trade anywhere near the territory of a Marvin Harrison Jr., especially since Marvin Harrison Jr. will probably be drafted before a couple of different quarterbacks go. And, we all know with quarterbacks, it's going to drive up the price range for being able to draft in that territory. So the Jaguars could definitely trade into the top 10, though, okay? And one thing that's helping out the Jaguars is the fact that 5 out of 6 teams drafting in the top 6 need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback potentially. The Vikings need a quarterback potentially. So there's a very real chance that, you have J.J. McCarthy in the mix, and, we have 5 out of 6 top picks go quarterback, and then it's going to push all the other positions up a little bit more. But another thing is that when I'm looking around at different mock drafts, I'm looking at a bunch of different ones. All of them pretty much have Rome Odunze and Malik Nabers going in the top 10. So what will it take for the Jaguars to move up from 17 to maybe pick number 10? And, say one of these guys are available and the Jaguars are like, okay, this is a good range for us to draft up to. One of the best wide receiver trade-ups in the NFL draft came in the 2011 NFL draft, where first of all, elite draft here. The first 7 picks of this draft were all Pro Bowlers, and 12 out of the first 16 picks in the first round were also Pro Bowlers. And of course, the Jaguars ended up with Blaine Gabbert. Unbelievable. But set aside from that, the Falcons traded from number 27 to number 6 overall to draft Julio Jones. Now, what did they give up? They gave up a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick that year. And then in 2012, they gave up a 1st-rounder and a 4th-rounder. So essentially, a 1st-rounder, a 2nd-rounder, and 2 4ths were able to get them to move up to get a Julio Jones. And that was a very, very well-executed trade, one of the better trade-ups for a non-quarterback that we've ever seen, especially going from that big of a range. But as we all know, the landscape of the NFL changes over time. The value of draft picks changes over time, especially with the new rookie pay scale. Everybody is slotted into a pretty small contract where, look, if you're going to be a good team, the draft is where to do it, okay? You look at the 2022 NFL draft just 2 years ago, you saw the Saints trade from pick 16 to pick 11 to draft wide receiver Chris Olave. So they trade from pick 16 to pick 11. The Jaguars will most likely trade from pick 17 to like a pick 10 with the New York Jets. And like I said, they drafted Chris Olave. Now, what did they give up? They gave up a 3rd-rounder and a 4th-rounder to move up. So not that steep of an asking price, but it's got to be the right player there and the right availability there. So if we were to take this move, say the Jaguars move from pick number 17 to 10 and give up a 3rd and 4th-rounder, would it be worth it to get a Malik Nabers or Rome Odunze? I certainly think it would be. And look, I'm a guy that's very, very conservative when it comes to making huge moves like this and really mortgaging draft picks. But, I think the thing that will take the Jaguars to the next level will definitely be an elite wide receiver that can do it all. And my favorite is Rome Odunze. I think that he just can do it all. And when you look at him, he just has the type of skill set, I think, that comes with a wide receiver one, kind of looking like a Larry Fitzgerald out there, doing it all, moving the change. He can also be a field stretcher. He can make the tough 50-50 balls. And, right now I think that having that will, of course, unlock the rest of the potential of the team. But, the Jaguars haven't moved up in a draft, I think, since that 2011 draft where they moved up to get Blaine Gabbert. So, we've seen. Actually, no, they moved up in I guess they moved up from the second round to the first round in 2022 when they drafted Devin Lloyd. But and then in 2023, he moved back a couple picks to get to be able to draft Anton Harrison. But Dave Caldwell was a guy that never really liked to move around. But we'll see. We've seen that the Jaguars express a desire to, to of course pay Calvin Ridley a lot of money. We've seen them go in talks and have interest in trading for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, but I think the move is going to come in the draft to be able to draft a guy. And, is it worth it to draft up there when there's so many, when it's such a deep wide receiver class? Is the drop off from a Malik Neighbors and a Rome Odunze to, a Mitchell or a Brian Thomas Jr., is the delta that large? We'll see. I'm not an expert at this. I just kind of explain my thoughts about different things. So what would you do? Is this something you guys would express to do? Or you guys say, let's stay at pick number 17. I only want a wide receiver there. Maybe you're in a cornerback market. Maybe you want to beef up the offensive line or defensive line. Sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you guys want to do. Huge thank you for watching this video. Also, guys, be sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram at UCF_Jaguar. I'm pumping out a bunch of NFL content on there. So if you guys want a more diversified takes of myself from not only the Jaguars, but other NFL teams, definitely follow me over there. And also shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Like I said, first 5 people that DM me their account details on Twitter will get $25 of free play. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Go Jags.